Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Poker Vlogs. This episode has been a bit overdue, as I was busy getting stacked to Bellagio. However, it's better late than never, and here I present to you a tournament I played at Philotimos in Manchester, New Hampshire. Let's get into the hands. It's the end of the semester, and my poker buddies Eugene, David, and I Ubered to Philotimo for their $150 nightly tournament, which is said to be one of the softest in the country. There's no late reg. We arrive when the blinds are still 100-100, ready to battle it out against OMCs, Maniacs, and everyone in between. Before I could even take my phone out to record, I river the nuts straight against the two-pair and stack a guy just a few minutes into the tournament. Now, sitting on 2x starting stack, I get involved in the next level when the blinds are 100, 200, 200. Here, a Maniac in +2 limps, and I look down at Ace-King offsuit on the button. Easy raise, as I make it 1200 to go, and he calls. The flop came Queen-Jack-5 with a flush draw, and I didn't have a club. Against someone who really likes to put money in the pot, I decide on a check. He checks back. Turn came a jack, completing the flush. He checks again to me, and I thought about betting, but I thought I had some showdown value, so I check back. River was a 5, double pairing the board. He checks me a third time. Although my ace high was almost certainly good here, I didn't think I could call by worse and get better to fold if I bet. I check, and my hand was good. In retrospect, after running this through a pile, against Maniacs with wide ranges, this is a spot where I have to c-bet my entire range on the flop, given how much garbage the opponent has. Still, we take this one down. Next, on the same level, the ladies when I left the limps, when I looked down at ace-jack offsuit in the hijack next act. Squeezing limpers in lower stakes is my favorite activity, so I raised to 1200, and she calls. Flop came 9-3 deuce rainbow. On this board, the lady donks out for 1500. Considering the player pool, she'd have effectively flipped a 9 in her hand face up. Given the price though, I'll have to continue with my 2 overs. Furthermore, I can apply pressure on later streets once the overcard to the 9 comes. Turn gave me the overcard as came a queen, also bringing the backdoor flush draw. The lady now bets out the same bet, 1500 again. In lower stakes live games, this signals so much weakness. I decided it is time to show her where her hand belongs, and raised to 4500 to go. She thinks for a bit and calls. The river was an 8 of diamonds, no help to us, but it does bring in the backdoor flush draw. She checks to me, and I decided to put on great pressure by continuing to bet 8000. Not only does she have to worry about Queen X, which I can have in my floating range, she also have to be concerned about the flush. I expect this to work out a decent portion of the time. The opponent's in the tank. Come on, just fold and you can get back to waiting for aces. Nope, she calls. I tell her nice call, and proudly tables my ace high. The opponent shows her hand, and she had King 9 offsuit, exactly as I read. Even though I knew the opponent's exact hand, I still can't get the station to fold. As the chips get pushed her way, she said the line that I've come to become quite familiar with. That she puts me on ace king. Okay, you put me on ace king, and calls pre-flop with a hand that gets absolutely dominated by ace king. Nice hand, man. The next level, 200, 400, 400, gave me no action whatsoever. Finally, in 300, 600, 600, after getting quite bored, the same Grand Central lady from the previous hand limps in again on UTG +1 when I have ace-6 of clubs next to act. I make it 2500, and of course she calls again. The flop came Jack 10-10 with no clubs, and she checks to me. The thing about people who likes to donk is that their checking range is too weak. Although she could have a 10 here and be slow playing, all her jack-hacks and good pairs would probably have been donked. Considering this, and the fact that she owes me a lot of money, I see that 2000 and try to steal the pot. The lady goes well into the tank, for I felt like forever. After much hemming and hawing, she finally lays her hand down. I felt happy to be able to discipline her at last. Blinds have increased to 400, 800, 800, and not much interesting things happen other than squeezing queen jack off over limpers. Finally, during a rare instance when it folded to me on the button, I looked down at 8-7 off and opened to 2100. The big blind, who's a young kid and has accumulated a large chip stack, calls. The flop was jack-jack-4 with 2 clubs. He checks, and I'm definitely c-betting this board where recreational players under defend. I bet out 1500, and the opponent thinks for a long time before making the call. The turn was a 9, so I picked up a backdoor. He checks to me again. Normally, I barrel again here given I picked up equity. However, given that he's able to call the flop, I don't have too much fold equity here. Therefore, I check back. River was an offsuit 8, so I picked up some showdown value now, and the flush draw bricked. On this card, he bets out 4,000. No decision for me, I snap call. The kid doesn't look happy, and he slides his card face down to the dealer. Normally on a cash game table where there are whales, I turn over my cards first to save the EV some face. However, here, I'm not really feeling friendly with the table after being put on ace-king, so I ask.
I don't have to show if he mocks, right?
Plus, I'm curious what hand he's doing this with. The dealer eventually says that he has to turn over the hand and flips over the kid's hand. He had 6 deuce off. Yep, he had 1 over to the 4 and the backdoor deuce high flush draw, and was behind my entire bluffing range, and called my c-bet. I should have invited him to the home game. People are getting their entire stacks in on the table, but couldn't pick up a playable hand in the next several orbits. Though this is actually less painful than it sounds, since the tournament was a turbo and the levels were short. When the blinds were 800, 1600, 1600, and I have only about 30k in stack left, I finally get involved again. It folds me on the hijack when I look down at ace-2 suited. I open to 3400 and get the button and big blind to call. The flop was king-queen forward 2 spades, so a pretty good one for my range. In retrospect, I probably should consider betting here. However, the stationary nature of the table and my dwindling confidence and not being able to make hands led me to take the passive route and check. The button checks back. The turn was a 7 of hearts, no help at all. Checks to me, and given that everyone has checked at least once, I decide to take a stab here and bet out 6,000. The button calls and the big blind folds. River, bink, 3 of spades. Finally, I make the absolute nuts. It's been so long. Without even pausing to think how much I could get called for, I snap and announce an all-in for about 20k. However, the donkey play doesn't get rewarded at all as the opponent snap folds, and get to realize 0 implied odds. Still, my chip stack gets a much needed boost. The blinds are now 1k, 2k, 2k. UTG limps, and it folds all the way around to the small blind who completes, and I'm in the big blind with 7-3 off. I check, hoping to flop something with this garbage. The flop came ace 5-4, 2 clubs, so I have a gutter, and that's not good enough multi-way. Wait, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? I actually have a double gutter. What a unique spot that I'll almost never see anywhere else. Small blind bets out for 4,600, slightly over half pot. With 8 outs, 6 of which are almost certainly clean, I call, hoping to bank the turn. However, UTG now comes over the top and jams for about 36,000 total, leaving small blind in the tank. As he tanks, I began calculating my pot odds. It's likely that both these players have an ace of some sort, so all 8 of my outs should be live. If small blind calls, I'll be getting the odds to draw, and without even being close to the money, there's no ICM considerations. However, if small blind folds, I'm no longer getting the correct odds to call, and I have to fold out such a fun draw. Small blind tanks and tanks, finally lets his hand go. Although painful, I've made my decision, and I'm sticking to it. I tell the UTG player nice hand, and let mine join its buddies in the muck. UTG then proudly claims he had ace-king, and small blind said he had ace-deuce. I can't say I'm surprised in the slightest. Blinds are now 1.5k, 3k, 3k, and I have about 50k in stack. Good for just about 17 big blinds. People are starting to bust out, and if I can get a double up now, I'll almost definitely be able to make the money. The dealer heard my request and gave me such an opportunity with none other than Eugene, who is the current chip leader of the table. He opens UTG +1 to 6,500. He folds me on the cutoff, and look down at an extremely pretty hand, ace-king off. This is it, I announce.
I'm all in.
Everyone folds and is back on Eugene. He thinks for a few seconds, and flicks in a call. We're off to the races for our tournament life with our buddy, who tables pocket nines. It's a classic flip. But before I could even process the adrenaline of the run out, the dealer put out the board in front of us. 5 cards were lined up neatly at the center of the felt, yet none matched the ace or the king in my hand. And just like that, I'm out. Out of everyone on the table to bust to, it felt like the best case scenario for my chips to be absorbed into a buddy stack. I pack up my stuff and get ready to leave. As I left, the table was calling me a maniac. Apparently, The OMCs on the table claimed that Eugene had a quote-unquote made hand, and I just had a quote-unquote draw pre-flop. As ridiculous as these comments sound, I can't say I'm all that surprised anymore, given the level of plays I was observing. Later that night, David made it to the final 3 of the table. However, New Hampshire prohibits gaming past 1 a.m., so they had to conclude the tournament before then. The floor at Filipino suggested that they should chop, but on an ICM chop, an equal chop, meaning that each one of the 3 remaining players gets paid equally, regardless of their chip stack. Apparently, the Filipino floor thinks that an ICM chop is, as I quote, disadvantageous to the small stacks. This level of incompetence from the poker room management was shocking to me. But hey, one of the softest rooms in the country, right? And that's it for this vlog. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time in Florida.